Sometimes you might find that there's a little bit of rust inside your tank. That can be solved by, again, emptying your tank, taking the cap off, emptying your tank out. And again, sometimes you'll end up with a little bit of rust and crud around the opening. You can take a piece of steel wool and slide that around to clean that up. You can also take, if you find that you have some rust inside your tank, just take a small piece of chain, slide that down in there, go ahead and drop it in. Maybe put a little bit of fuel back in, put your lid on, and then just shake it around. Turn the tank all the way upside down, slide it back and forth, get a little vigorous with it, and that'll knock a bunch of that stuff off. Again, you can take the cap off and work at it a little bit, and you can shake all that stuff out with the chain, and then just spray you some carb cleaner back in there, put the lid on, shake it around, and dump that out as well. Put it in a can and let it evaporate is the best way. You don't want to dump that on the ground. Now for the pump. This is your air pump. Now, some of these, depending on what model you have and how old it is, they have a little U-clip here. You just simply take a pair of needle nose, grab onto it, and pull out on one side. And that's what it looks like. Might have to take a screwdriver and just pry out on it a little bit, being careful not to scratch or dent your tank. And then pull your pump out. Now, a lot of the older styles, you can replace your cup. And this is basically just a leather cup. And what I do with the older ones is I soak them in some oil. Then you come in here and you just spread it out and pull it all the way open like that. And you can even buy these leather cups. You can get them from several different places. I found them at Walmart, Kmart, Cabela's, Bass Pro Shop, a lot of places, a lot of surplus stores carry them. But you just simply take that nut off, pull the cup off, put the new one on, put your nut back on, make sure you oil it really, really well, because that's what's going to keep that open, flexible, and allow it to build pressure. There is a needle valve inside here, and you can either use a pair of needle nose, or you can slide this back in. See if I can do this real quick. And as you well know, you have to open that anyways in order to put air into the tank, and then you want to shut it down once you get the air in. But you can pull this out. Typically, you don't have to do this. It just depends on how bad it is. If your tank is not rusted and dirty and filthy, I wouldn't mess with it. But if you want to, you can take it out, examine it, and it's basically just like a needle valve, cone-shaped valve. It's just when you tighten it down, it seats in and it shuts it down so the pressure cannot come back out, but it will allow pressure in. Place that back in. Tighten it in. Place your pump back in. Now, something you want to pay attention to is on this cap, hopefully you can see it here, there's an oil hole. You want to place that on the top half so that you can put oil in there. A lot of times I just use 3-in-1 oil. It's lightweight, it won't gum up, and it seems to work very, very well. Push that down to where your holes on the sides line up. Put your clip back in and slide it right in, and you're good to go. Now your tank is good and clean. You should have no problems. Make sure the rubber in your cap is in good shape. You can also find replacements for those. You can find replacement caps, or if you do some searching on the internet, you can find, like on an older style, you can find the replacement parts for the inside to change those out so you can keep your original cap. At this point, go ahead, pump it up, make sure your cap's on tight. You don't even have to put any fuel in here. Pump it up, make sure you're pumping good. Make sure you feel a little bit of resistance on the way down. Go ahead and check to make sure to see if you have pressure and whatnot and everything's working before you put fuel in. If it's not working properly or the way you think it should, then you can tear it apart and you don't have to pour the fuel out back into a can and whatnot. One important thing you need to know. Whenever you pull this apart, you want to open this valve up all the way. You don't want to leave it shut all the way down, because what you can do is you can bind up the threads on the inside if you tighten it down with it turned all the way down, or shut off in the shut off position. So you want to open that up. You want to open that up and then go ahead and tighten that down. And you don't have to get it overly tight. You just want it tight enough and you can also check that and put a little oil on that as well if you want. But you can check that whenever you go ahead and pump that up for the test to make sure that nothing's leaking in there.